It's time to get clear, get heard, and get paid. And join us on our Soul Business Retreat. Attract your dream clients and income over 3 nights as we shape your passion into a business that makes a profit. Follow our 13 steps to reach 5K in 30 days in the beautiful Byron Bay. Whether you're starting, growing, or expanding your business, our all-inclusive 3-night retreat is the place for you. Check out the details in the show notes, and we hope to see you soon.
Welcome to Willow Healing Matters, the podcast. We are so excited to have you joining us on this journey where we explore different ways to empower your soul, whether it's healing in your kitchen or all the way up in the corporate world. Come with us as we look into different ways to heal your mind, body, and soul.
Hey everyone, it's Catherine from Willow Healing, and today with me I have Dr. Kristen Williamson. So she has a DBH and LPC, so that means she's a licensed professional counselor, she's a consultant and a speaker specializing in neurodivergent, mental health, and late life diagnosis of ADHD and autism. With nearly a decade of experience in behavioral health management, mental health training, and clinical counseling, Kristen has worked extensively with adults navigating neurodivergence, emotional regulation, and self-acceptance. She holds a doctorate in behavioral health management, which is the DBH, and 2 master degrees in clinical and counseling psychology, giving her a unique blend of clinical expertise and real-world understanding of the challenges neurodivergent individuals face in both personal and professional settings. And I already know we're going to bond so much over your specialty. So welcome to the show. And how are you today, Kristen?
Thank you so much for having me. I am really excited to be here. How's everything on your side of the world?
Oh, I'm just learning that the amazing thing about the flexibility of doing things online and that you can do it anywhere, which is awesome.
That does help. I work and do virtual counseling with my clients, and I see them in multiple states across the United States. And so we're different time zones, and half will be in at their lunchtime, half will be in pajama pants, and
Whatever.
I love the online world.
Yeah, and it's funny because as soon as you said that, I had this client flash into my mind, and he is an older client, so he's in his early 20s, and he suffers from epilepsy and a few other things. I'm pretty sure he's undiagnosed on the spectrum, but also has an intellectual disability. And he used to come in and see me in the clinic. And then due to lockdowns and things like that, then we went to online. And he was a completely different person online because he could wear his pajama pants and he was in his element. You know, he could be in his own home. And the support worker's like, what's going on? Like, this is so different. I was like, I know. I said, but doesn't that reflect, we're doing the right platform? And then also, we were trying to do an hour. And I just said to the mum, this isn't working. Like, he gets to half an hour and then I lose him. Like, let's just do 2 half-hour sessions. And he's a different person again. And his caseworker's like, wow, this is such a big change. I was like, I know. And so it's about being flexible and adaptable, right? Especially, it's funny because when you work with people who are neurodivergent, normally they want the routines. But at the same time, as clinicians, we need to be flexible.
Oh my gosh. And it's so funny in saying that because I'm a neurodivergent human. And I say neurodivergent. I really like calling our brains neurospicy because I feel like our brains are the spice of life. And I love routine and structure, but that is not how the world goes. And meeting people where they're at has been a level of adaptability that I've been able to incorporate within this world. But for a long time, it wasn't nearly as easy as I was hoping it was going to turn out to be.
Exactly. So I guess that would be so reflective of you having to challenge your neurospiciness as well and pushing you outside your comfort zones. And I love
very much.
Yeah, and I love that you have all these academic accolades because just when I feel like your energy, it's like, I need to channel all this somewhere. I need to be putting this into something and keep learning. Because at the same time, I imagine you'd be unpacking yourself at the same time.
100%. I went into psychology after I had a kiddo, and I was like, you know what, I could do this. And then I focused on autism after he was diagnosed with autism, and he got diagnosed at 8, and he was in speech when he was 2 years old because he wasn't meeting
the milestones
for a traditional 2-year-old. And I saw what it looked like, what autism looked like, and then I started seeing what it looked like within myself, and I'm like, wait a minute, wait a minute. And then the hyperfixation just took off. And I wanted to learn all that I could.
Yeah, which is so interesting because it does happen that way sometimes, where I have a lot of clients and the parents are like, maybe that's me. And it can go two ways, so sometimes they'll get that diagnosis and it will be a relief because it explains what they've been going through their whole life, or always feeling that they were a little bit different, or whatever it might be. Or some people, it's like, oh, I actually didn't want to know. It's like, well, I think on your soul level you did want to know because you went down the path to investigate it anyway.
Oh my gosh, you are absolutely correct. It's so funny because you work with kids and then I work with adults, and so I get the adults that come in after their kids have been diagnosed and they say, I'm seeing this in my kids. I want to check for me. And you are spot on. Yeah. I would say a solid 70-75% of my clientele are like, yes, oh my gosh, it feels like I got to let out a breath that I didn't know I was holding.
Yeah.
But that 25 to 30% are, no, that can't be right. No, it's got to be, no, that it's just this innate stigma that is around, and thankfully it's getting a lot better.
Yeah.
Through advocacy and inclusion and just being as loud as possible about that we're not broken, we don't need to be fixed.
No.
But there's still that, so where I live in Texas, it's getting better, but it's still the idea of, ooh, something wrong with you, or they think autism means we need to be institutionalized.
And I guess that's where a lot of people forget too, that autism is a spectrum, right? That's why it's called autism spectrum disorder, and you can have the extremes. And it used to be, my clients used to call me, instead of having, it sounds really horrible, but instead of having gaydar, it had autism dar, because as soon as the child would walk into my office, I'd know straight away that they had autism or didn't have autism. And it wouldn't be the first conversation I would have with the parents. It would be, all right, what's been going on? And I could sense straight away if I could ease them into it or not, right? And I was always the black and white, not black and white, but I'm like, hey, this is what I'm seeing. This is consistent with a diagnosis of autism. You might hate me for saying this, but I feel I need to put it into this space right now, because if we don't get the supports now, we're going to be beating around the bush for ages. And then I'm like, you're going to go home and Google it. Please don't do that. I'm going to say that, but I know you're going to, because you're going to get the worst case outcomes. I said, but remember, it's a spectrum. Anyway, so every parent would then go home and they do exactly that. They go through this process of hating me, Googling, going, oh my goodness, there are some light bulb moments here. Oh my goodness, is this the prognosis for my child? Like the worst case. And they'll go through that thing and they'd always come back, and every time they go, we did exactly what you said. And I'm like, I know, because, I've told you this information, which, makes you question, and then it makes you think, did I do something wrong as a parent? And then they go through that aspect as well. But at the same time, they said, we actually respect you for saying it, because if you hadn't said it, then we would be in this cycle of not knowing, and I would always know which parents I could say. Yeah. And it was always, I knew intuitively which parents I could say it to and which parents I couldn't. And then we'd have the fight with the pediatricians. And I don't know. Yeah. Because we can't officially diagnose a speech language pathologist, right? We have to do it as part of a multidisciplinary team, or we have to get the ped to do it. And then there was this thing going around that it was being overdiagnosed. So then all these pediatricians stopped diagnosing these children who had textbook symptoms. So I'm talking like hand flapping, toe walking, like all the sensory things, no communication. And I'm like, this child is literally ticking the boxes for you. So then I figured out that if I would write in the thing, this child is presenting with these symptoms, which is consistent with the diagnosis of this, and I recommend a pediatrician, then they couldn't run away from it. And I found that was being more successful, because these
it's the idea of documentation.
Exactly. Exactly. And
portrayal.
Exactly. And it was so such a powerful thing. And this is about anyone listening. This is learning how to play the system, right? and making it work. And again, it's all about client advocacy, but at the same time, you need to find a way to get around, because you'll always meet egos in any part of what you do. And it's about, okay, well, how can I get around this to still get the outcome that I desire? Yeah.
With me on my part and my clients, because I have the adults.
Yes.
Where, in the United States, we don't have insurance that will really pay for adult autism testing, specifically if these adults have gone to college, if they have a job, if they have a family, because they're like, well, no, you've lived this far in life.
You'll be fine.
You don't need a diagnosis. And for the most part, like, that's true. No one necessarily needs the diagnosis, because there's not a medication. There's not a lot of pathways for going with the diagnosis, but it does help to rewrite your upbringing, rewrite these key moments that you felt as though you were doing something wrong, that you weren't getting it, that you were the weird kid, that you were the whatever. It just rewrites this narrative, which I think is actually really, really powerful. The ADHD diagnosis, I have found, gets a little bit more in accommodations, because there is medication that can help with that. There's things to talk to a medical doctor from that side, at least on the adult end.
Yeah, it's really interesting too, because I was interviewing, I think, a psychologist the other week as well, and she was saying that, you know, with medication, and like so many people are so quick to dismiss it, but sometimes you just need something to help you rebalance, so then you can figure out what to put in place and then come back off it. So it was like a really interesting conversation. Yeah.
I love when they talk about it like that, because there are two sides. There are some people who jump straight quick into medication, who believe that's going to fix everything, and then there's the spectrum. Then there's the people on the opposite side who say, I'm not going to do anything, and I am just raw dogging life. And I come in and say the same thing. We don't judge people with diabetes who take insulin.
Yes.
Your brain chemicals might be skewed. It could be circumstantial or situational. Sometimes we need this to be able to focus on the tools for building that tool belt, so then you can taper off, and maybe not. But either way, it's not a big deal.
Yeah, exactly. And then, you know, it's like, if you look at it as a bridge rather than a fix, then you have this different intention going in with it, you know. And especially for people, you know, especially there's a lot of research with higher functioning autism spectrum disorder individuals, that, you know, they actually have the biggest social anxiety. Like, they actually suffer a lot from depression, because they actually have this want to belong, but they don't know how to do it, and they don't always see where they belong. Yeah.
You are spot on. I'm in the process of writing a book on women who've been diagnosed later on in life. And so I'm reading research after research after research paper, and women traditionally are diagnosed with anxiety first and foremost, and depression, even though they are hitting what we could see now as more textbook autism, ADHD, the social struggles of just neurobiologically, our brains are different. And we want to belong. We want to be part of the world. And guys too, I can only speak from a female perspective.
Exactly.
But there's just that anxiety of, did I say the right thing? Did I say the wrong thing? Someone's facial expression changed, or I'm talking about dinosaurs too much. Are they enjoying this conversation? Are they not? I can't tell. Or missing the subtext in conversations.
And it's and it's funny you bring up girls too, because girls are so good at masking. You know, like, I remember sitting there with this psychologist years ago, and he was talking about girls on the spectrum, and I was like, oh my goodness, it's so true, because I have these higher functioning girls, and they'll just become the extreme. So they'll become the goth and be fully immersed in that, you know, that mask, or they'll become the popular girl and be fully immersed in that mask, or they'll become the cheerleader and be fully immersed in that. And and then they come home and they break down, or they'll lash out, and then the parents are like, I don't understand, they're so good at school. It's like, because they've been holding it together, this false mask and insecurity, and then they get home to their safe place and they have to let it out.
And they just fall apart.
Exactly. And so girls are so good at masking it. Yeah.
They are. There's different levels of masking as well. I know there's masking and camouflaging and assimilation.
Yeah.
And when I think of the assimilating, and all of them are exhausting. And females, we tend to get taught from birth.
People pleasing.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're gonna go talk to the band people. We're gonna chameleon ourselves into someone who can talk about band. We're gonna go talk to the goth and the emo people. I'm gonna, change my chameleon skin colors and go talk to them about this. And I've learned we can talk pretty much to anybody about most anything, as long as it's maybe an inch deep, in depth, and then but miles wide and information we can know.
Exactly. And it's so interesting, like just watching. I was talking to you about before we started recording, I had this client, the high functioning one. So he's 15, he's very black and white, and he really needed working on his emotional anxiety kind of thing. So I'm like, right, we've done our journey with our speech and language goals and our social goals. Now we need to work on your emotional mindset, because this is not helping you. So his life was gaming, because they escape in gaming, studying and doing schoolwork really well, and then sleeping. That was pretty much his life, right? And I was like, what do you actually like? He goes, oh, I really like drawing. I was like, why don't you do that? I don't have time to do that. So I set his homework as 15 minutes of drawing every day. And when he came back after 2 weeks, he'd drawn like all these new characters, and he was lighting up like he was a different kid. And because so often, especially when people are neurospicy, you get fixated on something you think is important, but you forget to come back to what's important to you, because you I'm speaking third hand here, but so clinging onto a routine or something that people accept and see with you, rather than coming back to what's happening inside you in that moment.
And that's the rigid adherence to the rules.
Yeah.
And even if it's the rules that we create in our own head.
Yeah.
And then you're sitting there just flabbergasted trying to figure out why other people aren't following to the same extent that you are.
Exactly. And it's funny you were talking about the rules, because I had this client years ago. I've been doing this for nearly 2 decades, mind you. So like years and years ago. And he was playing soccer, like just a friendly game at school, but he played soccer on the weekend, and he was the goalkeeper. So he's very adamant with the rules. And there was a handball, and the teacher was just like, oh, it's like advantages, a knock on, don't worry about it. And so, but he wasn't going to accept that, because the rules were, if you have a handball, then you've got to do like a throw in, or you've got to restart the play. So he ran this ball down the field to go get the ball, to bring it back, to restart the play. And his teacher was like, okay, mental note, like we need to really play by the rules, like when he's playing. But it was such a good example of the extremes, that like, no, actually these are the rules, this is what we have to do, rather than coming back to like, actually, no, maybe I can accept letting that go a little bit. Yeah.
No, you're absolutely correct. I actually, a really good example here for in driving, I've noticed my neurospicy brains, they will follow the rules until the rule doesn't benefit them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to wear my seatbelt, but I'm going to speed, and other people aren't going nearly as fast as me. And I'm okay. Well, that's the rule. Well, that's a dumb rule. Okay, it's still a rule.
I love that.
So they just follow this outline in their head of what needs to be matched, and then they get fussy if other people don't meet that criteria. And it's so fun to watch. Our brains are just they're puzzles and gears, and just this hugely eclectic coolness.
Exactly. And it's and it's funny too, because if anyone's like, oh, as if their brain's different, no, there are studies, there are scans, it shows that there's a different ratio of white matter and gray matter and different things like that. So it is actually like a physical thing too. So it's really interesting when you start to unpack it more. And you, from living through it too, Kristen, you have a very different perspective.
Oh, and last year I went and got my brain scan. Why? Because I wanted to get my brain scanned. I wanted to see what it looked like.
Yeah. And were you like...
And it was so cool.
Yeah.
The doctor was like, you see that? Yeah, that's where the ADHD is lighting up. You see this? Yeah, this is where the rigidity is coming in. This is this and this and this. I was like, oh, That's so cool.
Yeah, and it helps you understand a bit of why you are how you are, right? And even when I work with my coaching clients from any perspective, I'm like, you need to know yourself, so then I'll say, go explore astrology, or go explore numerology, or go explore human design, or go explore gene keys, or go explore something, because the more you know of yourself and how you tick and why you do what you do, then you're actually going to be less reactive to people in society and less reactive to situations. Yeah.
I love that you put it that way. I put it in a totally different way, but it's the exact same thing. We talk about sciencing out our brain.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
we just collect, like, okay, I get overstimulated in large crowds. And it's just kind of like we're collecting this data and like we're learning about ourselves.
Exactly.
Or I really like soft things, or I really like these kind of foods, or I really do not like these kind of foods. So you learn about yourself, and then you can come in and advocate and share and say, well, I don't need to wear blue jeans. They don't feel comfortable. It's like, no, you don't. You can wear literally anything other than blue jeans.
Yeah, but just make sure you remember to put pants on.
That is the most important part.
Or a dress, just something.
Make sure things aren't hanging out.
Yes, exactly. And I think that's for anybody, even people who aren't neurospicy. It doesn't matter.
That is, I say that's a universal. Let's keep clothes on.
Yeah, and it's so amazing too, because I remember learning this. There was this program called Hanan. So Hanan is like this child-led program. It comes from Canada, so it's to working with children, and it's about learning to follow their needs. So they specialize a lot with autism, and they have this program called Talkability. And I still remember this moment where we're learning about theory of mind. So if anyone's curious about theory of mind, it's like if someone puts something on the table in the kitchen, when they come back in, they're going to look in the same place but you might be watching on the outside and mum's come in and moved that thing, and then that person comes back in the kitchen and can't understand that, but because you've seen the whole event take place, that mum's moved it to the counter from the table, whereas the person coming in doesn't understand that perspective because it's from a different point of view. So I was like, wow, this is big, and then also understanding that people have different likes and dislikes. So I started working with my clients of saying, hey, what do you like? Oh, blah, 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 blah. Okay, what don't you like? Da, da, da. I said, okay, well, what does mum like? Oh, she likes the same things. Actually, no, she doesn't. She actually hates broccoli, and you like broccoli, or whatever it might be. And it was from them taking that perspective back that they went, oh, and just learning about themselves then made them curious about learning what other people like and don't like. So essentially then they were doing these exercises of interviewing other
Bringing
people.
awareness.
Exactly.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. So it's really, but it also gives you feedback on yourself. And, when I often ask coaching clients, hey, what do you want? That is such a hard question for people. Because we actually don't sit there and think about it. We think about what we don't want, but we don't think about what we want. And so great, we'll write down what you don't want, then write the opposite and get rid of the don't want list, because you've just created your wants, right? But it's, again, that perspective thing and where you're coming from. And I guess that's where you living through it and then being able to provide guidance for adults who have come in. It's
so
perspective,
fun.
Right? Yeah.
I had a client come to me twice now. I see her weekly, and she came in, she goes, something you said has been living rent-free in my brain, and it's not funny. I'm like, okay, what? She said, you asked me, did I do anything that brought joy this week? She's like, and I didn't know what that meant. And I didn't, I realized that bringing in joy is not getting off of work. She's like, I had to do a deeper dive to learn, what made me happy.
Yeah.
Because, like you said, we can create a whole list of things that we don't like.
Yeah. And it's so funny because when we forget that it's from our joy that we can build purpose and passion, so for you, the driving force was I want to learn more about me. That was your driving passion, right? And it wasn't, I'm going to help this with other people, but really it comes down to selfish or self-full motives. That is what drives you into bringing that passion and that purpose out into the world.
Oh, you are absolutely correct. And I even took it into, I wanted to learn about my kiddo. So I didn't feel like I was failing him, because a lot of parents, as you have come to learn, that with neurodivergent kids, their brains they have a manual in a language that we don't always understand. Yeah. And so it was coming in and figuring out what that language was. In that, oh my gosh, they're not being obstinate or defiant. If you say, hey, do you want to shower now or in 5 minutes? That gives them that choice. They're going to shower, but they now have that choice for that autonomy.
Exactly. And it's like, how do you bridge that? And it's funny because often parents will be like, there's this thing too where sometimes it's used as the excuse, and it's like,
my gosh, yes.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. It's like, oh, he's just behaving that way because he's got a diagnosis. Like, actually, no, you haven't put any rules and routines in place, and that's why that is happening. And I always find that interesting because, neurospicy kids are very routine and rule driven, and if you put the rules and routines in place, they will flow and they will thrive on that. And it doesn't matter if they're neurospicy or not. Any child needs that routine and that order.
Structure, routine.
Exactly. Because as their brain's learning more, they can't cope with having unknowns in their life as well, because their brain's putting all the energy into shifting cognitive things, sensory things, whatever it might be. And then if you're there not having a routine or a bedtime or anything, it gets really interesting. And then also asking, I don't know if you've had this happen, but I had this parent once ring up to cancel and said, we're not coming in today. I said, oh, okay, is everything okay? Oh, yeah, I just asked them if they wanted to come and they said no. And I'm like, they're 3. They are 3. Like,
Yeah.
I'm like,
it's funny.
Okay.
from the adult, from the parenting perspective, and the parents that I get in, they are more permissive with their kids because they had such a harder upbringing that they don't want to do that for their kids. I heard this phrase the other day. It's lawnmower parents. We are now lawnmower parents. We walk in front of our kids and we mow down
I like that.
Any struggles that our kids are going to hit. Yeah. Because we don't want them to feel the struggles that we did, even though hitting struggles builds resilience. Like, yes, we don't want to bombard them with struggles all the time, but we don't want to take everything away from them, because then we don't learn to cope with our emotions and with the stress. And
and I guess we can't wrap them in bubble wrap either, right? So it's like,
we could try.
We can try, but it's not going to be very fun for anybody involved. And it's funny you bring up that. I was thinking about this book I read, if anyone's curious. It's so good. It's called Balanced and Barefoot, and it's written by an occupational therapist. I can't think of her name at the moment, but she talked about how, kids can play with sticks. And we've been so conditioned, well, my generation definitely, that we don't play with sticks. No, sticks are dangerous. Sticks can hurt people. So what do you do with the kids who want to play with sticks? Well, you teach them. You don't use them against other people, but you can then go build and do whatever you want with it. And she said, they came up and built these amazing structures out of sticks, and they were using them as, fishing rods or whatever it might be. And because their creativity wasn't stifled. And we're so conditioned to, it becomes such a germ-phobic society as well. It's like, oh, no, you can't touch that. You can't do that. You can't do that. And in the end, we're putting them in metaphorical bubble wrap by doing that as well.
We are, and we're also not allowing them to be bored. When you're bored, you get creative.
Agreed.
You make fishing rods. You make swords to duel each other with, and you're probably going to get bruised from getting hit with a stick, but
you learn. It's like it's funny because I had a family member, and he was on a trampoline and he broke his leg, and then all of a sudden the extreme reaction was, oh, no one can go on trampolines anymore, right? And this has happened before. This is such a family thing. And we're like, why? He's just going to learn not to do that again, right? And especially growing up, our trampolines had nothing around them. They had this thin bit of padding over the springs. If you flipped off and hurt yourself, you flipped off and hurt yourself. Now we have these enclosed trampolines, which I actually more likely to fall off trying to squeeze between the net and get in than I am, and getting out, than I am actually just getting off a normal trampoline. And even if accidents can still, the amount of clients I've had as well that have come in saying, yeah, they were on a trampoline and they somehow bounced out the gap or whatever it might be. I'm like, if they're going to hurt themselves, they're going to hurt themselves. And then it's a lesson for them to like go, okay, you know, maybe we need to work on balance a bit more, or maybe we need to go, all right, I won't do that the same way again. I won't flip off the trampoline that way again. I won't jump out the door that way again. And it's that feedback, because it's our failures and our setbacks that help build us up and help us grow and learn in life.
And to know that, falls are going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And metaphorically, falls are going to happen. Physically, they happen.
Exactly.
I actually love trampolines, and I'm saying this as a kid when I fell through one of the springs and smashed my face and broke a tooth, and that happened. But as an adult now, and I'll tell this to a lot of my parents who have kiddos on the spectrum, like, let them go jump, because it helps to reset their proprioceptive senses, which helps them calm down and regulate or re-regulate.
Exactly.
And there's so much to it.
Exactly. And even, you know, it's like, oh, you know, they're just really angry. And I'm like, well, have you let them be angry? What do you mean? I was like, let them be angry. Go set up like a punching bag for them, or get a pillow to punch into, or go somewhere, you know, there's places now you can go smash things. Go do that. Go let them be angry, because if we keep burying the anger, it's going to come out in other ways and it's not going to be constructive. So, you know, take that power back and let your emotions come out, but in a way that's not going to hurt or impact other people.
That is what we talk about a lot, is that you're allowed to be angry.
Yes.
You're not allowed to act in this way. Yes. Instead of hitting the walls, take some ice cubes, go smash them outside.
Oh, I like that.
Watch them break. It's so cathartic.
Yeah. Exactly. You know, or like, I know I'm pretty sure it is in America. They have those smash studios now. Even
the rage rooms.
Yes. And you know, even there was this restaurant in Sydney, I think it's still there, but it was a Greek restaurant, and you could actually pay to buy plates and you could go smash them in part of the dance. So good. Such a good way. And they're just pasta plates. It is fun, and it's like a fun way to get your anger out. Or like for me, I used to go punch a boxing bag, because it was like, I need to get this out. And a lot of people forget that anger needs to be met with the same energy. So just saying I'm angry is actually not going to discharge that energy that's come up inside you. Yeah.
With anger, since it is a secondary emotion, for me, it's coming in and having my clients identify, like, are we feeling sad? Are we feeling hurt? Where is this anger being met? When my kiddo, when she was little, she almost ran into the street to chase after a toy car that she was getting, and there was a car coming, and I reacted in a lot of anger and like just taking it just like out of fear, but it came out as anger. And oh my gosh, my kid's gonna get squashed by a car, but she's not hearing the fear, she's hearing the anger.
Yeah.
And so she's hearing, oh my gosh, what have you done wrong? But it's because it's that secondary emotion. So it's coming in and honoring that, no, I get you're frustrated. I get you're feeling sad. Like that makes sense. That this is not fair. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think it's really beautiful too that I often then tell my parents, go own that emotion. If you realize like you got angry, but you were in a place of fear, explain that to your child, because they're such sensitive beings, especially neurospicy children. They feel your emotions, and that's why they often don't want to be in bigger rooms, because energetically they feel everything.
Oh my gosh.
And some of these kids I work with, they are so in tune with energies around them and the amount of spirits they can see and all these things. And the amount of children I've worked with who, when they get older, they'll say, spirit used to show up in my room, that's why I wouldn't go to sleep, is insane. It's you know, but it was just dismissed of like, oh no, they're just a poor sleeper. It's like, well,
oh my gosh.
No, actually, you know. And I had this one client I still remember, and he used to wake up in the middle of the night and scream like all the time, and his mum couldn't figure out what was going on. But it was only when he was older, because he was nonverbal, and then when he was older and could articulate a lot better, that he came into her and he pointed to a photo that he had of like a friend they had that actually had died of an overdose in that house. And he said, that's the scary man that kept coming when I was little, and I would scream because I didn't want him or his energy in the room. And she's like, yeah. And I was like, oh my gosh, I said, you need to clear that space because they weren't moving anytime soon. And I said, and you need to get, so then we were looking up ways on how to like get, and this point I wasn't even on a spiritual journey, but I just was like, right, I fully understand where this is coming from. And this wasn't the first story. Even I had a client recently, and the parents are like, oh, he keeps talking about like, and I could see clearly, intuitively, I could see exactly what was happening for him. Like there was this spirit showing up. I said, what happens when you wake up? Because there's someone in my room. I said, there is someone in your room. I said, it's an energy. And the parents are there in like disbelief. And I said, what if I told you you actually have the power to make them go away? And he's just like, oh, that would be amazing. And sure enough, a week later, he did that. And they're like, oh, he's sleeping better now. But the parents were so dismissive of what he was saying. So yeah.
You know, it's actually really interesting. Because for us, this is Autism Awareness Month, I've been doing a deeper dive just into the history of autism. And autism was originally started and believed to be a symptom of childhood schizophrenia. And so the idea of, when I think of schizophrenia, like the idea of seeing things that aren't potentially there, but we don't actually know if it is ethereal or not.
Correct.
And so...
yeah. And even I have this little nonverbal client, and I watch her eyes like track, like her kind of, it's like her spirit guide comes in whenever we have a session together, and we both watch it, like the energy together. And I said to her mum, you know, she can see spirits because her mum knows I do other stuff. And she goes, yeah, I know. Thank you for validating that, because she goes, I'm pretty sure it's my mum. I was like, it is your mum, you know. And it was just such a nice thing because the parent was so open to that rather than being really dismissive of it. Yeah.
Finding people who are more open to it, I've learned it helps change their world so much quicker. Because it's not like pulling teeth to get them to see that there's more than one perspective, to see that it's not their marriage that's necessarily failing, it's a communication matter, it's this, or it's not their kids who are doing anything wrong.
Exactly. It's just, you know, there's something more going on than we can see. And, you know, and I've always been lucky because I've always gelled with my kids, like with the kids I work with, especially the neurospicy ones. And I feel because I just have a calm presence, and so many parents will go, they're just so calm with you. And I'm like, because I don't expect anything of them. You know, I guess that's the biggest thing too, right? Yeah.
Well, and I would say with your personality, it's that, again, you offer routine and structure and stability, and they know what they are getting when they meet you. And what I've noticed with my 12 and 15-year-old, they call it vibes instead of energies. And they're like ADHD people, neurospicy people, you can put them in the room and they can read the vibes. They can read how it is. And a lot of times it's watching the body language, it's seeing if your face change, if your voice inflections go up. Yeah. And so just coming in and being able to come with maintaining flat affect, like our tone is neutral, and it's like, yeah. And then I'm going to cheer you on for all the things that you're doing.
100%. I feel we could talk all day, but we've got to wrap up our time together. So the question I ask is, if you could heal or change something in the world, what would it be?
I would say my biggest thing that I tell everybody is more inclusivity, more awareness, and reducing all the stigmas that we can.
Yeah. Be curious, not judgmental, right? Yeah.
Be curious, not judgmental.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you so much, Kristen. This has been a delightful conversation. And I feel, like I said, I feel we could keep talking. I feel we're going to connect after this and keep talking anyway. Yeah. But thank you for being on the show. And thank you for sharing your wisdom and your journey as well.
Thank you for having me. This was amazing.
Thank you for listening to Willow Healing Matters, the podcast. We have so much love and gratitude that you have taken the time out of your day to empower you on your healing journey. The views shared by the person being interviewed might not necessarily reflect that of the host and should be used at your own discernment. Trust what resonates for you and follow your heart and soul guidance. If you have any underlying medical conditions or mental health issues, please consult with your healthcare provider before pursuing any of the recommendations. Likewise, you can always contact the person being interviewed to find out more information. This can be found in the show notes. Until next time, remember to activate, align, heal, empower, and find love in everything that you do.